how do you create value? Ask yourself this question.
Right.
You know, how are some boutique small businesses are being able to compete with big businesses? If
Yeah.
it's only about price, then there is no way to compete, to be fully honest with you. But life
Mhm.
and work and business, it's not only about price. People do business with you or work with you because of the perceived value that they're going to get from you.
Let's be honest, cheap, watered down drinks aren't cutting it anymore. Raw Beverage Trading partners with venues that want to win. We develop bold, consistent, damn good products made with real ingredients because your customers can taste the difference. Matcha, we're on it. Cold brew, best in class. We're not here to chase pennies. We're here to build brands, loyalty, and bottom line profits. Stop letting cost controllers call the shots. Raw is where margin meets meaning. If you're looking for a partner, not just a supplier, contact sales@rawcoffee.ae or check the show notes for details. Welcome to the Mapper Forward Middle East podcast, folks. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 2 of a 5-part series with Mohamad Merhi from Cypher Coffee Roasters in the United Arab Emirates. We are talking about building a successful coffee brand in the Middle East. And in the last episode, we discussed how coffee and coffee brands really vary across the region. And we spoke about the different levels of like traditional approaches to coffee branding and coffee itself. And also we spoke about how the West has influenced the way the coffee is rolling out. Not just the West, I guess. Also we used Curaçao, which is from the East, and how different brands from around the world are really trying to find a foot into the region. In this episode, we're talking about what do people get wrong about building a brand in this region. And I guess, Mohamad, this is a thing for the coffee industry in general around the world, that people get things wrong about branding. You being someone who really has built a successful, very well respected brand in the Middle East in general, not just here in the UAE. But talk to us about what brands get wrong about building a brand, as well as here in the region, what we get wrong.
Okay, so look, I just want to tell you something about the influence, the point of influence that you mentioned. Sometimes people forget also that we'll influence the West, not vice versa. It's because coffee.
Now that's very hip hop of you to say.
Yeah, it's because, coffee, for God's sakes, it's called Arabica, which is coming from the word. Where is it derived from? So sometimes people in the West forget that you wouldn't be where you are in terms of coffee if it wasn't for our part of the world. Just to make people in this part of the world remember that we also have massive positive influences that we have, that have been exported to the West, that where the West have utilized. Now, going back to your point, which is, building a brand in the region. Many people underestimate how fragmented the region is. The Middle East isn't one market.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Okay, it's 20 plus countries with distinct consumer behavior, regulatory frameworks differ, and taste preferences. As mentioned in the previous episode, when we buy green coffee, we're buying for different type of clienteles that have different types of preferences, that have different types of brewing methods. So you have to always, connect with the culture and the society that you're trying to be a part of. You know what I mean? It's not only a process of buying and selling. This is what we people have to always remember that in this type of industry, especially in coffee, you have to contribute positively to the ecosystem, and you have to be collaborative rather than extractive, and that's what people
say more about that.
Yeah. So people
say more about that.
So I think you get much more by collaborating with your competitors from, extracting all the, resources away from the ecosystem that you're in. A lot more positive things come in or happen to you if you're collaborative. Okay, that's what we believe in. And this is something.
So can I ask you something very specific there? I apologize for interrupting, but I think what you're saying is a very important point. And if I understand what you're saying correctly, is when it comes to things like roasted coffee sales and green coffee sales, if you're building a brand where your sales strategy is focused on the race to the bottom, you know, predatory pricing, undercutting other people, that surely is one strategy, and that's something that happens all over the world in coffee. But the other approach is working in a more cohesive way and working to elevate the industry rather than the race to the bottom, which really is mutually assured destruction for everybody eventually.
How do you create value? Ask yourself this question.
Right.
You know, how are some boutique small businesses are being able to compete with big businesses? If it's only about price, then there is no way to compete, to be fully honest with you. But life and work and business, it's not only about price. People do business with you or work with you because of the perceived value that they're going to get from you.
Have you ever heard of Nomad Coffee Studios in Pakistan?
No.
This is a fantastic story, and he's coming on the podcast, on the Middle East podcast. He started as one of the first specialty coffee roasters. This is shout out to Faisal Khan. He's a client of mine, and he was on the main podcast. He started a small roastery. He was also born in Abu Dhabi, and his family's from Pakistan. They returned. He went and schooled all over the United States and then went back to Pakistan. And he started taking his coffee to the farmers markets. He slowly built it. Specialty coffee, values-based, he's a wonderful man. He does very good business. As he started entering the market, Nescafe also entered the Pakistani market.
I think it's the same guy. So I don't know the name of the brand, but I know the person.
Oh.
I think it's the
same. So Nescafe enters the market and tries to compete with Nomad Coffee Studios. He put Nescafe out of business eventually because he's building a brand that people wanted to be a part of, even though Nescafe could compete on price. They were trying to poach all the staff from all the other specialty coffee brands, and they were trying to do specialty coffee in Pakistan.
And Lee, this brings us back to your point. So how do you do that? Authenticity, connecting with the community, local relevance is very important. You need to, this is something, you need to build trust. It's just not aesthetics. You know what I mean? It's not.
But what do people get wrong? Help people understand the things that they're getting wrong about understanding what branding is about in this region.
That's what I'm trying to say. That I think I've mentioned before. They think you just can import ideas and just implement them here. It's like, not to be political, but like when they think that they can just force democracy on the people here by killing 1 million people in Iraq, for example. You know what I mean? It's just, you can't just take what works in the US and think that if you bring it here, it's going to work. It's not. It doesn't work this way. You know what I mean? It doesn't work. You have to take into consideration various things to be able to make it work in this. And this is something, for example, that is, I see it happening a lot. Because unfortunately, a lot of people think that if it's coming from the West, it's better.
Well, and in a region like this that is so diverse, like just as Arabs in the Middle East, we have huge diversity. But then you layer on top of that what's been happening over the last 10, 15 years with a lot of multiculturalism coming from outside of the region and coming to work here. And like, you just take the UAE as an example, the melting pot of people coming from the Philippines and coming from different parts of Africa, coming from different parts of Asia to work here. all of those things stacked on top of each other and the influences that brings with it to start brands is going to create both some really beautiful things and I think some challenges about building coffee brands as well.
I give you another thing, Lee, for example, about this. I travel a lot, to various origins around the world. And I hear everyone is excited about Saudi, for example, and they think, Saudi, all the producers. And sometimes, because we're tied up, with internationally, they see that Saudi is announcing the line, it's announcing various amazing projects, people unfortunately have that thinking process that I can, tell them anything, and they will buy anything, and I will do that, and I will this, and they forget that in our cultures, it's relationships matter, and
humility matters.
Yeah, and building that trust takes time, but once you build it, sometimes it's unbreakable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're emotional people. We work together.
Alhamdulillah.
We like each other. A lot of times you do business with others because you like them. This is what people don't understand. It's relationship-driven, the relationship-driven markets. One may argue, I am of the thought that anywhere in the world, this is what differentiates you from others. Having good relationships, and not looking at your supplier as, your slave. You know what I mean? There's people that get it wrong sometimes. They're your partner. You treat them like a slave, they won't treat you correctly in the times where you need them. You know what I mean? And you stand up for your relationships. You show up to your suppliers when they need you. They will show up for you when you need them. You know what I mean? I
agree.
This is what people don't get right sometimes. Yes, you're going to have an outlier. You're going to have one or two who are not going to show up, but the majority of them will show up. Good people will show up when you need them. So you build these relationships and you grow with them, but this takes time. And unfortunately, some people are in a rush for everything. It doesn't happen quick. It should, it's building trust like any other relationship takes time. And here goes, again, where I'm going to refer to when I told you that brand is a reflection of your personality. Your reputation should precede you. People should know that this is a stand-up guy. This is a guy, but not fake in reality. This is a stand-up guy and people who are alike are going to show up. And this is reality. Happened to us.
Well, and you raise an interesting thing there, because a lot of the time people think that your brand is all about your graphics and all about the name of your company and all about the furniture that you have yes, those things are a part of a brand, but people often miss that the way that you treat people. Mohamad did this really great thing before we started recording, and he said to me, just let me call one of my colleagues, I need some help with something. And he was talking about someone that works for him. That reference of speaking about the people who you employ as your colleagues rather than, my employees, that speaks to the culture of the business, which is a part of the brand. And I think, Mohamad, people, again, as I was saying, they just think that the graphics and the packaging and the furniture, that's what the brand is. I think that's a big mistake that people make when it comes to branding.
It's important, but it's not. It's not because, Lee, sometimes as a leader, you're working for your people, not the people working for you. This is what people don't understand.
Yeah, beautifully said.
Yeah, so because at the end of the day, the way we manage or we grow this organization is that if I'm not here one day, this should go on. This should continue, And this is about building the right principles within an organization that take time, But trust me, once you have that, there is no way it's not reflected. People feel it. The best feeling sometimes I get is when people step into Cypher and they're like, man, the energy is positive. And
Yeah,
for me,
and it is.
and,
It
and,
really is.
and for me, I'm like, yes, I succeeded. It's not about money. It's not, yeah, my net profit is this. No. This is it. This is it. I'm trying to create a positive environment for everyone, all the stakeholders involved. That's what I was pushing for such a long time. And we managed until today, alhamdulillah, until today, we managed to succeed in doing it. But it's a lot of effort. It's a collective effort. That's what people don't understand. It's not me. It's a collective effort of the whole, everyone that's involved within this organization.
But that doesn't diminish the role of leadership, right? Like the role of leaders in branding is to set the tone, to define the tone of what the brand will be. There are hyper-competitive brands, there are predatory brands, there are brands that celebrate culture and brands that celebrate diversity and brands that celebrate quality and brands, right? And it's the leadership's role to set the tone of the branding.
100%.
That's what we talk to our clients about anyway. That's their job. Pick the direction, the values, the vision, and the mission of the brand, and then figure out how to use your branding to communicate that to customers and to potential employees as well as to your suppliers. There's nothing nicer than going to a trade show or going out into the public, like cafes around the world and whatnot, and hearing somebody talk about, oh, so, you know, you live in the UAE. Do you know Cypher? Have you ever met Mohamad? Like, best guy ever. Like, that is a part of your brand. It may be an unintended consequence of your brand, but the fact that no matter where I go in the world, people speak positively of you speaks, alhamdulillah, that speaks to the branding.
Yeah. But honestly, it's
right.
You try to live by it as a human being as well. You know, this is it, and it's reflected on the brand as well.
Yeah, but bro, I think that you don't appreciate the fact that, and I'm saying this as a compliment, I don't think you appreciate how few brands actually achieve it. Like we're people who have done hard things. You and I have very similar stories, right? And we underestimate how many brands are actually successful at nailing that part. They may be profitable,
yes,
but actually being profitable and being well spoken of at the same time.
You know, Lee, it's
not everyone gets there.
Sometimes I get puzzled how certain brands are doing well financially. Honestly, I tell you this, and for me, it's a.
You're assuming they are. You don't think just because their branding tells you. You raise a really amazing point. Amazing point, folks. Just because a brand looks like it's doing well, it doesn't always mean that it actually is. Say everything about that, Mohamad. Go ahead.
I know, like, because, we deal with a lot of people. Some I just don't understand. Like, I see, like, sometimes in their, I've met, like, minimum over the past 4 or 5 years, 40 people that come and go within their organization. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I see how badly they're treating their colleagues. And I'm like, how are they doing well? How do they keep growing? Like, I just don't get it sometimes. And and then you hear of other suppliers that work with them. They tell me, please don't work with them. They are the biggest. But then they continue to expand and they continue to grow and they continue. And in my head, I'm like, how? Really, how? I ask myself, sometimes you start saying, what is it that they're doing right that keeps them going versus, because it does not match my ethical values and beliefs. You know what I mean? So maybe.
Well, we live in a part of the world where smoke and mirrors is a part of the business landscape.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where how it appears is sometimes more important than the reality of what's going on. And that's why I say we underestimate how hard it is to get to where people like you and I have gotten to, where we've maintained our values and found financial success in our businesses and found success on a global level with our brands. And I don't say that to brag. I say that to make this point that I'm about to make. I have met many people in this region who the average person would assume that they're doing very well. And then when you sit with them and you talk and they finally open up after a minute, you come to realize that they are carrying a lot of debt. They have investment from another company that needs for this brand to do well in this region because they're looking at expanding into a different region. So this is like their flagship appearance. They're using their success in inverted commas in this region to amplify a signal around the world. There are many different reasons that people want to appear to be successful, and not all of it is true. And I think that's really important for people in our industry to understand.
Yeah.
Most people are pretending.
Yeah.
Most people are pretending about their success.
Yeah. We'll live to see, I guess. Let's see.
You're being very diplomatic there. I'm surprised that you're being very diplomatic about that.
Because some might prove us wrong, you know. I mean, you never know.
Look, I'm in the very privileged position.
Because some people, you know, link success to how financially well you're doing, you know, at a period of time. But sometimes
and other people link
over the lifespan of your brand or you as a human being. How well have you done, and how would you measure success? What's success to you? You know.
Great point. Because there are different drivers of success in this region, and the time scale is very different, right? Yeah. In a place like the United States, 80% of small businesses are going out of business by year 3. So the time scale that they've got to get successful is much shorter than in other countries.
Yeah.
And what they look at success as is often different than this region. Fame and recognition is a massive currency in this part of the world.
Yes, that's true. But it's anywhere, Lee. To be honest, to be fair, it's not only here. You know, it's everywhere. A lot of, especially in the materialistic world we're living in, and that's driving a lot of the things right now.
Your argument would stand up if there weren't brands like Cypher and Raw and Kurasu and Bunni and Nomad Coffee Studios. The people in those brands are not interested in being famous.
Yeah.
The people in those brands are interested in doing good business.
Yeah.
And so I take your point, but if brands like yours can do what you're doing without the need to get really famous, then I think other brands could do it too. So that leads us to our next episode, which is about what are the important elements of getting it right when it comes to branding in the Middle East. So join us for the next episode, folks. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you, Lee.
This episode is part of a 5-part series produced by Mapper Forward. Check the full playlist and guest details in the show notes, as well as how you can support our work in the coffee industry. Become a premium YouTube subscriber, explore our Patreon and any brands we've partnered with to bring you this podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help us grow our audience.